Hello and welcome to my garden in a cold zone 4 in Minnesota. This is Meg Cowden with Seed to Fork and welcome to my September garden tour. September is this great transitional month. We are still pulling out a ton of hot season foods. We've got melons, we've got tomatoes, we've got cucumbers in the ground, we've got green beans still going strong. And then we've got a second late succession of sweet corn that is just going to come into season in the next week or so. We're also transitioning to some of our fall crops. I've got arugula that's now in season. We've got radishes that are also starting to come into season here, very quick radishes. Our fall cilantro is ready to harvest. And I've got a ton of the garden planted for fall. I have probably my largest and, fingers crossed, most successful fall brassica planting. I planted a ton of cabbages. I chose very late day cabbages, so they're like 80 to 95 day varieties, and I started them around our last frost, honestly. So I usually don't start my cabbages for fall that early. I also left them covered until about August. So they looked really great. Pest pressure was kind of low. We have a lot of cabbage worms and a lot of cabbage loopers this year, and I do spray for BT. I try to do it about once a week. I think with this cooler weather that just finally blew in overnight, today is September 6th by the way, I think that the cabbage moths will start to peter off. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't be paying attention to and looking for the larvae that are going to continue to feed on all the plants. We've got a ton of brassicas out here. All right, so the garden's tired. We're tired. That is a fact. It happens every year. I mean, I have been absolutely ignoring my tomatoes. Haven't been pruning them, haven't even been harvesting them. I get satiated with tomatoes. They're not like the end all be all for us. I would much rather have shelf-stable food like our potatoes or onions or even peppers, honestly. The bean tunnel is past its prime at this point. It looked really great a few weeks ago, but we have been harvesting the pods from it as they've been coming into season, and we store them and put them away for winter eating. So we kind of like the pods to be dried. This one is a little soft still, but it's okay. The most important thing is to make sure you harvest these kinds of things if you're going to get heavy rains, because they will sprout and rot a little bit in their pods if you're not careful. So where the borlates I just showed you are kind of more of an indeterminate bean, they're pole beans, so they continue to mature. These ones, which are a bush bean, are more of a plant that is ready kind of all at once. So you can see all of those dried beans, and on some of these pods there's definitely a little bit of mold growing. So that's why it's really, really important to pull these up when you can. We've had a very dry summer. These have been dry for a while and I haven't even worried about them. But with the weather getting a little cooler and there's going to be dew and things like that, I am going to be coming through and pulling these out like this and then laying them to let them dry a little more, and then I will pull the pods off the plants carefully and store them away for winter until we're ready to show them. The other thing we're kind of looking at is plantings that have already been harvested from. So we've got the watermelon, which is it was in the triangular bed right back here. The watermelon did fabulous. We got something like 30 watermelon, well over 200 or 250 pounds of melon we got out of that one bed. I had 5 plants in it. And the plants were done producing. They're not going to produce more melons. The foliage was still going. A lot of the flowers that were in there planted were kind of desiccating and drying up. So I decided we were going to rip it out. And that also helps us because all of this biomass you see has to get composted in the fall. And the more my husband can kind of stage that and stagger it, the easier it is on him. All these flowers, the kale eventually too, we'll harvest it, but the stalk gets run through a chipper and gets layered with some soybean meal and water, and he builds just a nice big open pile. So in place of those watermelon, the soil, it just made me kind of sad to see an empty bed, so I have planted buckwheat there. don't usually do that. Buckwheat is more of a spring or a summer cover crop for me, but I figured it was worth a shot because it's the fastest maturing cover crop seed I have in my seed stash. So the other really important thing I'm doing right now is I'm continuing to seed very, very fast crops. I'm looking at 30 and 40-day crops at this point in early September. So things like radishes, cilantro, arugula, mustard greens, and spinach that will end up overwintering. This is going into a bed that had a second succession of green beans, of bush beans that kind of got overplanted and were just too tough. They were still producing, but we've got a third succession that's producing. So I decided to free up this space and get rid of that headache that was the planting that was kind of overplanted and difficult to work with. And now I get to reset that with brand new seedlings that will be popping up within a few days. It's very, very satisfying to turn beds over like this in late summer. Another bed that I always replant and pull out early is my pickling cucumbers. I pulled them out in the middle of August and I direct seeded all of these things. I've got more root vegetables as well as I've got some tatsoi here and some purple bok choy. All direct seeded, super easy. It takes 15-20 minutes to get these seeds in the ground. And then a month later, I've got food growing, and this will be a great addition to our fall crops, as well as the potatoes. Potatoes for me are really a late season crop. We even though we plant them early, they sit in the ground the whole season and really make for a nice kind of antidote to things like the tomatoes that take a lot of time, are very time intensive in summer. So we love our potato beds as well. So the other amazing harvest this year has been our pepper harvest. We had just extreme heat this summer, and really we had 90-degree days on and off from June all the way until yesterday. So like 3 months of on and off. It wasn't 90 degrees every day, but we were upper 80s. Heat indexes in the 90s a lot. It was dry, and our nights stayed warm too, many nights. So we didn't often get the break in weather that we're used to up this far north. But the peppers liked it. They loved it. We had an amazing pepper harvest still going, but I know with this new weather system that has just rolled in, it's going to really slow down our pepper maturing. I mean, our jalapenos have been honestly ripening by the hour. So we like to harvest them when they're red, and we smoke them and we dehydrate them for chipotle powder. A jalapeno becomes a chipotle when you smoke it. Bell peppers have been wonderful. Paprikas have been amazing. We've got a huge jar of dried paprika for grinding into powder as well. So the other thing that has been doing really well this year is our fruit orchard. And we harvested black ice plums in August, and then we just harvested our toka or bubblegum plums just over the weekend, over Labor Day weekend. And we're still enjoying our Williams Pride apples, and then we've got Harrelsons to harvest pretty soon, and after that we'll have snow sweets. Next year we're hoping for even more apple varieties. We have something like 12 apple varieties here on about 8 or 10 plants. John has been grafting different varieties onto different levels of the espalier trees. So that's been fantastic. So in terms of fruit right now, not only obviously vegetables is a really big part of our garden, but we have plums, cantaloupes, and 2 types of watermelon in season right now, plus apples. So 4 different really lovely fruits. So I'm not buying any fruit at the store right now except for citrus, which is kind of fun. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for watching this garden tour, and I hope that wherever you're growing, that you are really tuning into your own garden's shifts and changes. I'm seeing the letting go that is so emblematic of the fall in the garden. I'm pulling plants out, as I had mentioned, and I'm watching plants let go. And it's one of the most poignant garden lessons that we have. It's what I really love about fall, because it's a time of great cleansing. I look at things like interpersonal relationships this time of year and really assess if I'm on track and I'm aligning myself with the kinds of people and the kinds of attitudes and the kinds of thoughts that are serving me. And if they aren't, they go in the compost pile with the garden. This entire garden is going to get composted this fall. It's a lot of biomass. We'll do it slowly. The days are short, but we work sufficiently and not too much this time of year. We really do slow down, and I welcome this different season into our lives, and I really do look forward to it every year. So I hope you are seeing the signs of fall where you grow and are embracing this internal and external shift of the seasons as we continue to make another pass around the sun. So I'll tune in next month and share with you guys where the garden's at. Will there be a frost in September? That's always the question on my mind, and I'll let you know in about 4 weeks. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon.